that he is one of the best in Division B. For the earlier weeks, we saw him consistently at the top, going undefeated for his first 4 matches, I believe, and now has fallen a little bit due to Tyler, Shaxi, and Tom creeping up there. But he could very well solidify a great position at the end of the round robin.
And it's weird how it's gone backwards for him for blitzchung versus Kin, because they are obviously the 2 Hong Kong players quite clearly practicing together, coming with very similar strategies week after week. And towards the start of round robin, seems like a lifetime ago now, obviously blitzchung was doing very well, but he was going with a strategy that we were a little confused by, not bringing the warrior, not banning the warrior, but it worked out great for him. And it was kind of the other way around for Kin. That wasn't working for Kin. Now he's finally got a win on the table. For blitzchung, it didn't work out well for him, and things are going a little bit rough for him now. But thankfully, this is a chance for him to take the win over Tom, and as you said, prove himself as one of the top dogs.
For sure. And already that, from looking at the classes, there's already an anomaly for this series compared to most of the rest of what we've seen this weekend. No warlocks. Instead, we're seeing rogues on both sides. Slightly different archetypes, as Tom is rocking the Highlander and blitzchung has the Galakrond stealth package.
There is, of course, the fair share of Highlander still for blitzchung, relying on the Highlander Hunter. And all 3 of these decks, Gia, I feel like are just the very much blitzchung style of decks. Even though Galakrond Rogue has lost a little bit of its bite in terms of the aggressive potential, the stealth version is still very much more the more damage-oriented of the 2 decks, given that you have Spy Mistress, double Eviscerate, just being able to get the win that little bit quicker in terms of burst damage.
Right, and it definitely wants to to relying on shore up your early game. But now from Tom, we see the Highlander Rogue, a very, I would say, it's an archetype that has fallen in popularity. We did see Staz bringing it this weekend as well, but it did not ultimately end up so well for him. Sad to say that Staz is 100% relegated, but Tom could have some better luck. I do think that if there is some win rate for Highlander Rogue in the APAC graphics, it's mainly due to Tom's wins.
I will agree with that. I think he's shown very good understanding with the deck as well. This is very much classic Tom, I feel like. He gets these decks that he knows very well, he plays them very well, and he feels very comfortable with them. The positive of that, if you want to frame it in a good light, is that he, consistently doesn't make mistakes with these decks that he knows very well. The potentially negative way to put it is that he's not adapting to the meta. He's not giving himself the highest potential chances by trying to outguess his opponents. Because obviously, last season he became very comfortable with the Zoo Warlock deck when he was running the kind of double egg version with Plague of Flames in there as well. When that had just come out. And he did fairly well with it, to be fair, but his opponents did start to prey on the predictability of his lineup.
Yes, indeed. We are going to start off with a Rogue Mirror, though, of course, not True Mirror. As we've been saying, it's not the same archetypes, but man, it's been a while since we've seen one of these, and I am happy.
So how are the differences likely to shake up in this matchup, Gia? When we say a Rogue Mirror, is that a good way of putting it? Are both players moving towards the same thing?
I would say it is significantly different when one player has the full Galakrond package, because of course they want to get the maximum invokes for that biggest swing possible on turn 7. Highlander Rogue, you're usually expecting to get a level 1 and if you're lucky level 2 Galakrond, never the full shebang. But Highlander Rogue has a lot of value in the late game to make up for the less draws they would presumably get off of Galakrond. They have the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, which I think is a huge blowout play, which if there's not an immediate answer, ends the game on the spot.
I will say that this is looking like a pretty premium start now for blitzchung. Greyheart Sage to fill out the draw. Plenty of powerful plays with the Praised Galakrond and the Frozen Shadow Weaver as well. Unlikely, I think, to be pointed face in this matchup, but potentially could be, if it's just one big minion played for Tom, all the go-ahead that blitzchung needs to start pushing for an aggressive game plan.
Yep. Curve is looking great for blitzchung and for Tom. Unfortunately, he hit one of the most expensive reborns off the Pharaoh Cat. No activator for the Miscreant, even going into turn 4 as far as we can see.
blitzchung tempted to trade in the Spy Mistress here. Well, to be honest, I kind of feel like until we're hitting Faceless Corruptor, he has the opportunity to just hold back.
Yeah, that is pretty curious. waste Warden in the respect for Druid. You can clearly see, but probably not so efficient in this matchup. Painful play for Tom to have to go through, but he's thinking if he can just survive, he has a pretty solid curve. Wrap Golem and Galakron into Kronks is always possible and powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about how blitzchung could save the Frozen Shadow, even starting to swing things around, but with nothing on board, this is the pretty much only play he has for good mana utilization.
Tom has just been doing such weak things turn after turn, but this is how far Rogue has fallen, that weak versus zero pressure actually ends you up kind of toe-to-toe, but that is a huge draw for blitzchung. This Edwin could get ginormous, but Tom's been sitting on the sap.
So therefore for blitzchung, I think you can quite happily make a big Edwin while still doing powerful things, but don't go out of your way deliberately doing weak stuff just to juice up the Edwin. I'm thinking just starting off with Praise Galakron Lackey and seeing if it's worth a step is a good way to go.
I'm thinking Seal Fate because...
okay.
Oh, wait. There's not enough mana to coin Lackey Edwin. Yeah, never mind. Let's go Praise. And that is definitely a better target to step than the Spy Mistress.
So I think blitzchung was just about to gear up for coin Eviscerate Edwin, but then he got the Ethereal Lackey, which is one of the best lackeys to Shadow Step in the deck.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised by this. I like the look of the Lackey for 2 spells with the Shadow Step. And he could have coin with that play, right? And then just traded off of the Spy Mistress. That's the big downside, I suppose, is he loses a stealth minion on board.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious real, very, very fortunate scenario would be if he got a backstab off the Ethereal Lackey, which is pretty possible.
Premium evolved target for Tom there, but blitzchung is rewarded for holding on to this stealth minion. He can just clear the Ahmet with Seal Fate. It just could be another Edwin turn.
Yeah, which is why I'm thinking he could start off with the Ethereal Lackey and then go for Sap on it. Sap is a little scary for sure, because he can play it with a bunch of lackeys afterwards, but it's quite a lot of mana expenditure, and he only has 1 lackey in hand at the moment.
He could still go backstab trade and kill it off. But the Lackey survives in that scenario, which is a bit scary. For Faceless Corruptor in particular, because blitzchung knows that Tom still has that second Lackey in hand and going into 7 mana.
blitzchung going with the Bamboozle Edwin. I can't imagine that they're both going to come down on the same turn. But that would be the ultimate Bamboozle, I have to say.
I would call it a in that instance.
The worst boozle I've ever seen. Is that why it's called that? Because you're just like, bam! There's a boozle.
Okay, moving on to Tom's turn. blitzchung did pick a very good timing to disincentivize a Togwaggle, because if it happens now, Edwin gets a swing face. But Tom says, bring it on, my wand will compensate for how far he's fallen behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a good thing for Tom where he wouldn't have done it, but it does give a lot of incentive for blitzchung to go with that aggressive game plan I was talking about.
Look at the clear Seal Fate, Fan of Knives.
Insane.
And even play the Lackey. And that's one of the best to get here, if not the best.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, are you so far ahead that you hold back because of Doomsayer? I think the answer was no, but Bearcat is just still developing, but a bit safer.
Sure. Not just Doomsayer, I guess there's also the possibility of top decking his own Tog, in which case doesn't have another Lackey generator outside of the Galakron.
Yeah.
But pretty good outcomes for Tom. That's
Very
an answer
big.
to Edwin. A freeze for it, in fact. And his own Edwin. Wow!
Yeah, he can go incredibly hard onto the board here.
Yeah. You absolutely do it.
Oh, that was insane!
See the Spy Mistress, the freeze, the Edwin.
Tom
Tom just has this in the bag now, right?
Is it cold in the shadows?
I was thinking he could just very well freeze the Edwin and stick his Galacrons on board, his Faceless Corruptors on board.
Me too. Obviously, if blitzchung has a clear, then that's disastrous. But, I mean, what would that clear even be? It would have to be like exactly Sap plus Flick.
Yeah. Or like Galacron into Kronks plus Sap.
Right,
All of it is fringe, right? But whereas this play from Tom, now he doesn't immediately have lethal versus just a Sap. Whereas if he had 2 more 4/4s, that's lethal.
Right.
Or at the very least requires another spell from blitzchung like this Eviscerate used to prevent lethal.
Very interesting. But for Tom, it thankfully does not slow down. The Sap alone was not enough to prevent this Edwin from coming down yet again.
Tom knows it's not ambush now. He can test for dirty tricks if you, but no particularly good Shadow Step targets here.
Well, I'm looking at the Devoted Maniac. It juices up Galacron again, gets him a lackey, makes Edwin that little bit bigger.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it's not crazy, but it's not the worst either.
Oh, but he's committed to sacking it here because he didn't know it would be Bamboozle necessarily. Oh. We could see him just step the Shadow Weaver now, freeze the Waxadread, still play Edwin. Looks good.
It does look good.
Playing Commander Raisa with Hanar.
Oh! Okay, that's something I want to see.
And here we have Murger Murgurgle, or if you're Galen, Murger Gurgurgle. Hotly contested topic. I can't wait to see that on Hot Takes.
And whether or not we like Tom's line in the previous turn to go a little bit more aggressively trading rather than freezing to go for lethal, it's looking to be very, very strong here. blitzchung has 2 chances to draw a powerful spell off of the Galacron, or he is in big danger.
He is in fact dead. And it's just 1 Sap. I'm checking right now, so we're talking Kronks to just clear the rest of the board. Alongside Eviscerate Trade. That would be a full clear. Oh!
Oh! Ho, ho, ho!
Alright, blitzchung.
Oh
Yes,
my
don't get ahead of yourself. Trade first. What a swing, Derek!
You are too late. His return is nigh.
Of course. Apac's the best.
Man, it takes a lot to get a reaction out of Tom, and then we finally got it.
The second time we've seen him go for the salty claps. Tom is cracking, showing signs of emotion. Alec here.
Yep, I do like the look of Alec here. I mean, Nithog is kind of the more powerful card overall, but I agree that at this point, when you're threatening close to lethal, it seems to be the way to go.
Well, Tom has a pretty good response still, and blitzchung is still on the defensive. Like,
that's activatable, should he need.
About average, this outcome. Blitzchung needs a spell lackey, as far as I can see it, to try and find an answer for Siamat.
I will act as your scape.
Okay. Uriel could fish him another. Even that is not particularly great because then Siamat could be replayed, but at least blitzchung could stay ahead. Ooh, there it is.
Okay.
With other minions on board. I mean, he has to take it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not playing it though.
I mean, it just speaks to what you were talking about. He just plays it again with Divine Shield Rush again.
Well, alright. I was thinking just forcing Tom onto that 7 mana expenditure still seemed pretty good because at the very least blitzchung maintains this wide board. But now Tom is playing his own Galacron, just 1 draw, but it could be huge.
Yeah, really just to activate the Kronks, I think, on the other turn.
Not bad.
That's pretty good.
Everyone
Yep.
gets saps today.
Yeah, Shadow Step would have been absolutely insane there to go with the Kronks next turn, but this is still good enough, I think.
Blitzchung is running out of value. A lot of what we talked about in Mirror is that, but he has this Greyheart Sage. Find him something for burst. Oh. Ooh, okay.
So he can play that and not die quite happily.
Uh-huh. Just trade off the rest of the board. He has to dagger down a bit, but... Or he could use the backstab. Probably not getting better at this point.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that he could, as long as he has a lackey in hand, he could go for Togwaggle next turn if he needs to do other stuff here, and still play the spell on the wand on the same turn.
Oh, I mean, but that's a consideration. But I think the 5/5 on board is more impactful than having Miscreant plus some lackeys.
I can agree with that.
But as far as what he takes, the wand doesn't have that many good draws left. He's played Galakron Kronks. I think it's just Flick and Faceless now, which are very impactful, and neither of those deal face damage. I wonder if it was Crown there.
Even then, what does Crown really do for you there? You're kind of more afraid of dying. Just making big minions on the following turn, I think, might not be enough.
Is he afraid of dying? I don't know. Blitzchung has to be the aggressor now because he's not winning in value.
That's fair.
Super close, but Kronks from Tong can swing the tempo back yet again. Rogue Mirror 101.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at other lines of not using it to try and go for a wide board buff to kill your opponent on the following turn with something like Shield Vendetta to clear off most of the board, but I just think you get yourself such a nice big swing by going for it.
There's a possibility of sapping the Togwaggle and just ripping Alakir this turn. The Vendetta can deal with it. I think that is far too risky to give Blitzchung another proc of Tog while also necessarily setting up lethal. I like this a lot better.
Oh, all the invoke cards just coming down that little bit too late for Blitzchung.
Hey, the Faceless, that's a big one. I was hoping
what
to
he
hit
needed.
Flick as well. I'll take that.
Okay, well, he's got the ability to not only clear the board, but swing it quite decisively in his advantage now. With Backstab, Kobold, Step the Kobold if he needs to as well, and of course with the Faceless.
And it's very important that the Kronks will be gone after
Yes.
this. So Tom's ability to swing back is reliant on Zephyrus now. Very nicely done.
Darkness reigns.
I do somewhat wonder if that was better than Backstab and stepping your Kobold there, because he could have been left with a...
A healthier face.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, whoa, whoa,
Oh.
wait. Huh?
Is that good for Blitzchung? Is it bad for him?
I think it is negligible if Tom is only going to give a Vendetta or
Right.
Blitzchung doesn't play other class generation. I'm looking at Feywing because it's cheap and not Brightwing.
That is the benefit of many cards. Oh,
Backstab. But then first you kill the Cho before you backstab.
I'm kind of looking at Betrayal for next turn if you need to like actually swing the board.
Oh, do you even kill the Cho? This 4/1 is so annoying for Tom. I think he kills that. Yeah. Just clogging up board space for Blitzchung here.
But then, if Blitzchung can get away to get another class card into his hand, that's insane.
It's
suppose it's quite difficult for him to do, though.
Yeah. Oh, Flick! Can get rid of the Alexstrasza.
Yeah, that is huge. He can even step it and play it again on the Scale Lord, just
But then
to...
he's giving Tom the step!
Oh my god. Okay, you kill your own Lorewalker Cho first with the Flick.
Descended into madness now. As far as the hierarchy of spells that you don't want to give Tom goes, I think it's fine to give another sap. The board is not very high value from blitzchung, but he does not want to give another shadow step.
I mean, no, but I'm looking to see if you can, like, fill your opponent's hand and then overdraw them with spells.
What?
I guess
Wow.
they don't really care that much about the spells, the cards in their deck.
Way I see it, as long as he makes board space to flick this Alexstrasza,
Yeah.
it's good enough. Tom still has Scale Lord though, not irrelevant in the slightest. Alakir is another 6 damage, a little bit off lethal. It's armor that's keeping blitzchung alive here.
The other important thing there for blitzchung is also leaving board space available for the Waxer Dread to be summoned back when the candle comes through.
Okay. Man, this is so awkward because he really wants to use some backstabs here, wants to sap the flick, but
Yeah.
I think it's fine for him to give blitzchung backstabs, but not fine to give him sap.
So you're thinking backstab Alakir then to clear up the board?
Yeah, I think the Alakir...
Swings.
Okay, yeah.
Resources.
For your life.
Having a little bit of a spectator issue here, I think. Ah, there we go.
Okay, looks like we're back right on time. Yeah.
As there is the Waxer Dread, means blitzchung is setting in fatigue now. Even if Waxer Dread dies and shuffles back in, that does of course not deny any fatigue counters, unfortunately.
Are we getting into fatigue? I highly doubt it, but it is worth noting.
Well, I mean, we're
because-
here, right? Blitzchung is going to be taking
Sorry,
fatigue damage
yeah.
next turn.
I worded that badly. I just mean, is that incremental damage going to be relevant? Because Tom doesn't get the rest of the damage to shore this up. That is huge! Stormwood Champ.
I mean,
Wow.
at this rate, you're definitely right. He's not going to come close to killing Blitzchung.
We just got to this really weird scenario where both of the Kronks were used for swing and none
Yeah.
for burst, and it's all just become about squeezing all the value you can about from the rest of your cards. And normally I would feel like Highlander Rogue has the head up there, but there's been no Zephyrus for Tom.
No Zephyrus for Tom yet. No way to draw to it as it currently stands. I mean, Brightwing into Zephyrus is a consideration to an extent if he needs a real Hail Mary out.
And the worst part is, he can't just sap the Stormwind because it comes
Yeah.
down and everything's buffed again. Okay, sapping Waxer Dread instead and getting rid of the Stormwind with his Wrapped Golem. The Reborn will still summon that little taunt in the way. Tom just needs to hold on till he hits Zephyrus, and then he could just engineer a lethal through fatigue.
I will act as your scale.
Now for Blitzchung, again, applying that little bit of extra pressure, trying to stick this board. And of course, relying on the value from Waxer Dread to get him over the finish line.
Yep. Blitzchung will be on 2 ticks of fatigue next turn, so even Zephyrus is not lethal here.
Oh, even Flick cannot stop the power of the Waxer Dread from coming back time and time again.
Crazy. But it can stem the bleeding. Could give Tom one more turn. Blitzchung one more tick of fatigue.
We are friends now.
But here we're relying on the Bright Wing. Paris is useless. No spells in hand.
Yeah. Again, Tom can survive this turn, which means through Flick Sky Shiv on the Waxadread, he's potentially looking at a Zephyrus lethal on the following turn as his best bet of winning the game, unless blitzchung can win right now.
And there are outs. He's got Lackey Shadow Step already on board, so he needs to find 3 more damage. Ethereal Lackey is available. Oh man, Sinister Strike, Eviscerate, Head Crack!
Wait, Daring Escape, does that?
Yeah, Daring Escape. Wait a second. The Head Crack 1 short right now. But the Daring Escape would have done the same amount with his Kobold Lackey and just, you know, gotten rid of the board, which he sorely needs. Oh man. No second Kobold. Blitzchung is on his last legs here.
Darkness reigns.
So now he just goes... Whoa, mommy! Okay, he's evolving it. Evolve. Ooh, got scared there. I figured he should still find a way to fit in the Head Crack for that turn because of the board. He doesn't have guaranteed lethal.
Right.
But there is no clear available for Tom. There's taunts though.
There's a lot of taunt available. And even though the Titanic does not, of course, add double taunt, you could at least boost the health and hope that Bone Wraith is enough to get over the finish line.
The problem is, boosting here just goes up to 7, which walks in perfectly to the Waxadread. I don't think there is any chance left here. So...
Oh!
Is there? Waxadread trade.
So close. Yeah, I think Blitzchung's got
Wait.
it.
It's still a bit off, right?
No, it's not. He's got Kobold Step, Kobold Head Crack with
Oh,
the damage.
yeah, Head Crack. Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
Even then, that got far too close for comfort.
I cannot believe that Blitzchung ended up winning that game. tom60229, it seems like years ago at this point, but with his insane Wondrous Wand there off the Heist Baron Togwaggle, he got a massive Edwin down, cleared the board, developed the board more with those Faceless Corruptors as well. We didn't necessarily agree with the way he played it out on that turn, but I just thought that was an unlosable situation with how far ahead he was.
It really did seem like it. And, you know, it speaks to how much potential Rogue has to swing back the mirror, where the difference between going 90% in or all in could be game deciding. And you and I were advocating for all in there. Tom went for holding back 1 Faceless, and that ultimately gave Blitzchung the time he needed to slowly crawl back into the game and get the Head Crack for lethal. Is it EU here? We're already having Head Crack memes of our own.
Yeah, I think that Tom definitely could have tried to just end it on the spot and tried to not even get into any kind of late game fatigue scenarios where he may think he's in the lead as the Highlander deck. I think that's generally a fair assumption given the just raw power of Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and, of course, the slight unfortunateness that he didn't get the Zephyrus until right at the end. But I agree. Overall, if you have the opportunity to just close out at the start, you may as well take it.
Yeah. The freeze with the Edwin, or sorry, the freeze without trading and having the Corruptors alongside the Edwin, I really think that was his best shot there. But that's how the cookie crumbles. Blitzchung is ahead now and has some of the better decks in the meta, I think it's fair to say.
I think so too. We're going to see if he can end up at a very, very impressive 6-1 record, tying glory overall in terms of the win rate. When we come back after this break, Blitzchung versus tom60229 will continue. You're watching Hearthstone Grandmasters. This is our third match of the day. 3 out of 4 that we have here for our slightly shorter day in APAC at least. And again, it's the final day of the round robin, so you are definitely not going to want to miss all of the action from Europe and then Americas shortly thereafter, where they have their full suite of 5 games each. But before we get into that, we have our own heart-wrenching stories to be getting through. Samuel Sao will be playing later on today for fight for his life here in Grandmasters if he loses straight up relegation. But before we get to that, Gia, we have, for the most part, a little bit of a breather here for blitzchung versus tom60229. As we said, pride very much on the line for both of these players, trying to prove that for blitzchung, he can beat a former world champ is no slouch in its own right. And for tom60229, at this point, the questions are there as to whether or not he's living up to his incredible heights that he did reach when he was world champion.
That's right. He has to prove whether or not he's still got it. It's as simple as that. And to be completely fair, at the beginning of the season in the Swiss stages, you and I were particularly critical of his play on Zoo. We were wrong. No surprise there. But later on, I think it's fair to say we saw him have shaky understanding of a warrior matchup. We've been seeing him play skippers much earlier than the general consensus would be is ideal to play. And right now, I think he didn't play the best rogue game that he possibly could. So I hope that Tom can still make sure to keep at his best. And we now have the Demon Hunter mirror to see if he has particular understanding of this very nuanced matchup.
Well, one of the things that won't be helping him for the most part, I think it's fair to say, is the Frenzied Fellwing. If we imagine back to the start of Demon Hunter, I think potentially even before the first nerfs, I was already seeing a lot of players saying they didn't like Frenzied Fellwings in their Demon Hunter, specifically because Ladder was like 80% Demon Hunter, and it just wasn't that good in the mirror. Even as a 3-3, it still just didn't come down consistently enough, because everything gets removed on your opponent's turn. It's quite difficult to actually get the damage to face.
And it's true. If you're dealing damage to face that early, then you're leaving up minions on your opponent's side of the board, and then the Fellwing just gets traded down anyway with your opponent's initiative. It's very counterintuitive. And so we see here Tom, of course, respecting the battle fiend instead of shipping all of the slices face and having played the Fellwing, which was strangely available there. He is managing to get on board, though, first with the Satyr Overseer.
He is, and this does have the pretty good job, I will say, of disrupting blitzchung's Satyr Overseer turn, because even with blitzchung having the ability to get the Overseer down, killing the opposing Overseer, we still see him divert, because that extra 2-2 on board would kill off his own Overseer, and I think that that is very smart for blitzchung. He still gets a strong play this turn, and sets up for Satyr Overseer hero power next turn for the 2 damage to kill off whatever Tom throws down.
That's true. And that added benefit on the small chance that the Satyr Overseer survives on turn 4, he gets a huge benefit leading up into Warglaves. But now Tom has the advantage to swing back a little bit at this value trade. Should it be taken by the 2-2 is ever so slightly awkward for blitzchung, because then he would be overcommitting damage with hero power to kill that off.
And the value trade is going to work out pretty nicely here for tom60229. And I think it was quite likely that this works out well for him. At the very least, it's, just a trade with the weapon, and then everything dies anyway, and he's got a value trade. So it was a good value trade, I think, there overall.
Yeah. Oh, big draw for Tom here.
That is huge!
Yeah, he can freeze face and kill off that Satyr Overseer. It makes sure that the Frozen Shadow Weaver stays alive, and he has the second slice to activate Glavebound next.
Wow.
He wants it.
I mean, so far, I've really liked what I've seen from Tom in this series. I think all of his plays had very, very strong reasoning behind them, and obviously, these couple of top decks help him a lot, but it puts him pretty far in the lead against blitzchung now, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, blitzchung draws yet another Warglaves, no choice but to pre-commit the mana expenditure. In the beginning, this looked like the Rogue Mirror, to be honest, where it was back and forth, but it's on fast forward because we're already in the end now, and Tom has pulled ahead.
Far ahead as well. Blitzchung's best chance, I think it's fair to say, is damage through to face, of which he has a couple of ways to go about. Chaos Nova does open up some other ideas. He could just try and get a catch Tom off guard and get a big sweeping board clear. But in the end, just cycling through to his damage cards, I think, is a more consistent plan.
Just hoping that Tom doesn't have damage for himself, but we can already see second slice hero power available. Just one more damage needed to end the game on the spot.
And obviously Tom is getting a little bit afraid in terms of... Oh no, wait. Is it... Not quite lethal, sorry. I was about to say he could just go for lethal. One damage off here. But with that not quite being there, he does need to be afraid of taking too much more damage and opening blitzchung up to some weird surprise lethals.
Yeah, so the consideration becomes, is he sending the glaive-bound Battlecry into the Vulpera instead? Save that extra 2 health.
I mean, if he doesn't, he's dying to Twin Slice plus Metamorphosis. To be fair, there aren't actually that many ways that he dies here.
Right.
If he does just leave it up.
And the big thing is, if he doesn't send all of the glaive-bound damage face, he also doesn't have guaranteed lethal on the next turn.
Right.
It is dependent on his glaive-bound sticking or a top deck. Which is honestly not that difficult to ask for from the stick, because it can't just be I-beamed away, it needs I-beam plus something else.
Yeah, and even if it is the glaive-bound adept on the other side, as long as the Battle Fiend can connect face, that does still equal lethal. So I can understand Tom's thinking here. Either way, whether you give them the niche outs for lethal or the niche outs for a clear, you're kind of praying they don't have something.
Right.
And with this way, if they do have it, you don't die on the spot, at least.
Yeah. I think I've come round to liking this play from Tom a bit better.
too.
It's difficult to ask for a clear on the glaive-bound and the Battle Fiend. And clearly blitzchung does not have it. That's going to be GG. Tom equalizes the series, but he's still a rogue that he needs to win with. So I think that blitzchung is still in a better spot overall.
Yeah, it might be a tough sticking point for Tom, given how weak Rogue seems to be in the current metagame. But I will say it was a very solid game, I thought, on the Demon Hunter there for Tom. It's been one of the biggest sticking points for a lot of our players, who I think if you're not practicing a lot with the Demon Hunter in the mirror, you can start to miss out on some of the common patterns that you're expecting to see. You can't just rely on your innate Hearthstone skill to be winning that matchup most of the time. Which is why I think we've seen, Shaxi suffer a little bit in particular as one of the strongest players, but hasn't quite got his head around Demon Hunter. Tom, on the other hand, very, very strong in that mirror, and will now, Gia, be looking at the Rogue once again to try and take a win against blitzchung's Demon Hunter.
Yeah, you brought up a really great point about how you can't just rely on your instincts as a Hearthstone player for this class. And I think that is a testament to success for the introduction of a new class to begin with. If it's so close to the other classes that if you don't even have that much reps on the deck and understand it immediately, then it just doesn't have that unique identity. But Demon Hunter has such a good play style that leaves very little room for error and a lot of nuance and intricacies still, that I think very cool to see if players have to put the time in to have a good grasp of the deck.
I agree completely, Gia. But now for tom60229, this Rogue deck is a lot less consistent. You're going to see the same patterns a lot less often, given that it is, of course, the Highlander variant. Lots of different openings that could come down. But generally, you're always looking for the same thing, I think, which is board clears early on to not take too much damage, and then as quick as you possibly can, tempo swings to pull you back into the lead.
Chung with a hand of corn tuna, 555. Only Filipinos will get that joke. And it is gonna be pretty difficult for him to make sure that the curve is pretty smooth, because Tom is already off to the races with a tempo Zephrys. This is one of the matchups where you absolutely want Zephrys for just backstab.
I agree completely, especially as his follow-up is looking very powerful, actually. The Frozen Shadow Weaver can be huge in this matchup, as we well know. But if he wants to save that for turn 5, just Seal Fate is also very powerful on this turn.
Seems fine. As far as I can see it, as long as Rogue stays toe-to-toe, then they're in the advantage in the late game. Far more value available once Galakrond becomes... Oh no. Galakrond comes online, but hand for blitzchung is terrible.
Absolutely awful. And this gives a lot of information to Tom Gia. He,
Gold
I
in the
think,
shadow.
will be expecting one of the cards to be Warglaves of Azan. I think that's a very fair read, because, you know, what could this hand possibly be? It has to be majority 5 drops for blitzchung to make this play. And therefore, this plays beautifully around that. And not only that, it also curves really nicely into the Faceless Corruptor.
Blitzchung's just in a disastrous situation now. Tom also shut off any possibility for Glavebound plus Twin Slice on this turn. And if Blitzchung wants to even prevent Faceless from transforming the Lackey, he has to I-beam it. Ugh.
Mm.
This
Which
is
I
quite
think he will
possibly the
make-
most powerful taunt Lackey I've ever.
Yeah, it is absolutely huge. I don't think that Blitzchung can make the play of, like, you know, if you have Faceless Corruptor, he's probably just too far behind anyway, and he's thinking he'll need to save the I-beam for something more impactful.
Right. So he could go for... Oh, this still sucks. Like,
I grow impatient.
just the 4-2. I mean...
The thing is, though, having looked at it a little closer, his mana is probably spoken for the next few turns anyway, with Coin Hero Power Glavebound, Hero Power Glavebound, Hero Power Metamorphosis Hero Power could eat it up very nicely. But in the end, he misses all of that and just goes with Glavebound for unactivated Battle Cry.
As far as tempo goes, this is obviously the highest tempo play, but geez Louise, his next play is just as bad because of the lack of coin.
Absolute disaster. The Corn Tuna, didn't even hear what you say, does work out awfully here for Blitzchung.
555 has corned beef and corn tuna, but the more consistent ad, I think, has been for corn tuna.
We're with you.
And it really does just not stop now at all. tom60229 has strong follow-up after strong follow-up. Yeah.
He just has to take his pick, and Tom, with another invoke effect, could get a lackey, and there are a bunch of lackeys that are highly impactful here, even if it's not the high tempo ones of Kobold and Rush. Just the taunt lets him take value trades. Yeah, Generation gives him a chance at backstab, or Betrayal.
Whoa.
Everybody gets head cracks these days. But we're taking the fan.
It's so close to being so good, but it's not quite there yet. Oh.
Okay.
Goes for the contract and gets probably the best one there.
Well, given that he didn't go for Fan of Knives, I do like the Vendetta for full cost here.
Right, yeah.
Protects his 4 health minions. I was thinking the alternative was just Fan Hero Power, but that have fit anymore with the mana, so this makes a lot more sense.
Oh yes, there we go. Tom with the hit to face, which I can respect a lot as well.
Don't know if I respect that. Doesn't that walk the second English? I mean, you can make the argument he has Siamat to respond, but I don't know.
I choose to make that argument, Gia.
Okay.
Thanks for handing it to me. Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I think the main thing he was considering there was actually Warglaves instead.
Okay.
But maybe he should have the read that Warglaves wasn't there, because otherwise Blitzchung probably would have gone coin Warglaves instead of coin unactivated Glavebound Adept.
True.
So maybe you're right, it should very possibly have just been a trade there.
In any case, Tom is ahead on board, but as far as potential to forego board control and just go for burst, I think that's much more up Demon Hunter's alley. He's got really strong follow-up though, where Blitzchung would need a miracle to swing this back.
Yeah, exactly, especially as the stealth is just really powerful here. It allows for more damage to go face. It has to be a clear on the Siamat here for there to be any chance at all for Blitzchung, which he does have.
I was gonna say Miracle is codename for Altruist, but not available here. Whoa! I mean, he has to face
so
tank it.
close. Yeah. I will say he did go for that very, very quickly, whereas there was the very powerful play of Metamorphosis, Hero Power, and I-Beam to clear off everything other than the Akama.
Yeah. That did seem more consistent.
Yeah. Because with this line, was there a particularly impressive spell he was looking for that could turn things around?
Can't think of one.
Yeah.
And also, he's not bothering to clear off the Tiamat in the first place because he wants to I-beam it next turn. This makes sense because he will just take 6 damage on the course of 1 turn either way.
Oh! Not lethal quite yet,
Wow.
but I will take an 8-drop off of that Tiamat every day of the week. Okay, never mind, just take it back.
That gets there though.
It does indeed.
So what, are we looking at Ultras only as an out? And it even gets clogged up by the
Yeah.
Warglaze double. I don't see it.
Skull can still get Altruist if it was a perfect hand to go along with it. But that ain't it. A valiant effort, but both roads now get over the finish line. This is a huge deal for Tom because I could definitely see this as being the sticking point for him against both the Demon Hunter and Highlander Hunter left over for blitzchung. But with that now out of the way and Demon Hunter having taken another loss there for blitzchung, I think he's still looking okay, but it's getting that little bit scarier.
Yeah, I'm getting the rogue out of the way is absolutely huge. Of course, he still has to get a win with druid, which seems almost more questionable than rogue, given that blitzchung's
Yeah.
remaining decks are hunter aside from the demon hunter. But that was an outstanding performance from rogue. It seemed not even close. And how often can you say that rogue absolutely steals the demon hunter? I feel like it almost always goes the other way around.
Yeah, not often. It was a truly powerful start, and it all stems right back from the get-go, where he just made the snap decision to go Zephyrus backstab, which I think was absolutely on the money. It's that tempo swing that I'm talking about. It's not enough to just clear, but as rogue, you need to clear whilst being ahead to get that chip damage in over the course of the game, which he obviously did, with a little bit of help from the fact that it had to be a complete pass on turn 3 there from blitzchung, given how awful his hand was.
Indeed. We are going to move on now to the druid for Tom, of course, but blitzchung has actually hung up Demon Hunter for now and favoring Highlander Hunter, probably one of his favorite styles of deck. And of course, it won't matter because it's Conquest. He has to get a win with both of them anyway.
Tom holding on to the Crystal Power here up against Hunter is, I've got to be honest, not something that I expected to see.
I think it only lines up well against Blazing Battle Mage because the other dragon can't be targeted.
Exactly. There's like Ooze and Zephyrus, which I guess are scary. But even against those, I think I'd rather just get my own win condition rolling as quick as possible.
I agree. Blitzchung did have a bit of a slow opener though. It's all odd number cards, none of the even cost minions to fill in the gaps.
In the shadows.
He just needs a Baku in this deck. Hello?
Oh, imagine. Do you remember when all the Danish players, just for one tournament, started playing Odd Hunter? It was, spoiler alert, not very good.
What are you talking about? That sounds glorious.
Yeah, I bet it does. But even though it's all a little bit odd-numbered and not quite filling out the curve nicely, blitzchung is still able to get the threats down on curve. Curve into the Rotnest Drake or the Faceless Corruptor, depending on what the situation requires. And in response, Tom is left with no threats at all.
Glowfly, he's digging for the Mount Seller very clearly because he has a hand to back it up. But still, nothing for his troubles. And I'd love to see a Faceless here, just transforming the Dwarven Sharpshooters. Sorry, all odd cost cards? What is the odds of that?
Haha.
Oh man. More card draw from Rising Winds is Tom's best bet, but that means he can't play Mount Seller should it come off the top. This is terrible. Tom just clapping for himself. The heck? or clapping for Blitzchung's fortune at Tom's misfortune.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, it is a that was a never lucky rubber ducky kind of clap right there.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if you float mana every turn, Blitzchung. If Tom's been floating mana, 7 mana every turn.
There are, in fact, even cards in Blitzchung's deck as well, and he gets pretty much the perfect one to come down on curve there as well. Blitzchung is looking in a great spot, and Tom needs something right now, and I'm not even sure what he's got left that could do it.
Yeah, because Fungal, of course, can't draw into Mount Cellar or it'll be discarded, but all he has is an Ironbark Taunt, and that is not going to be enough. He can go Innervate, with the Crystal Power.
Yeah, like he can get the Power of the Wild, bait out the Crystal Power to heal, I suppose, is the best chance, but yeah, we can see that is not going to be enough for him.
Dino Tamer Bran closing out a game, or Unleash the Hounds if you're not into styling on people. Imagine going for Hounds here.
Yep, this was just so close to Tom for turning things around, but in order to kill, to get the best of the Hunter, it was quite clear that it just needed to be 2 turns out there, I think it's fair to say. If you can get the Glowfly Swarm, ramp up to the Mount Cellar, ideally, then you can very, very quickly turn things around, because the Hunter is left often without good answers to a wide board, so they have to start trading their threats in, or they're just dead to a single Savage Roar on the other side. We've seen it time and time again, but it was just a case, as we saw from Tom's perfect salty clap. It's just what happens when you don't get the threats.
Druid is just such a famine deck, and you know, we've seen Tom for the applause twice in a series now. Is this even the Tom, though? The cold, emotionless, stoic Tom that only laughs when Frodan says that he could win a game of Hearthstone against him. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I don't remember that video, but it was good.
I think he said, I have an idea for a deck. It wasn't even that he could potentially win a game, it's just that he could come up with a deck that isn't awful, which indeed, haha, to that idea. But final game now of the series, Gia. Again, this is less for the actual potential of relegation, of course. All top 4 spots in Division B are equally important. But for Blitzchung, finishing top of the group would be a very nice solace after just about finishing down in Division B.
Right off the bat, though, I saw a decision to keep Wild Growth, which I've been pretty much against most of the time in these faster matchups where Tom is really looking for Glowfly primarily, and then if you hit Fungal into Glowfly, you skip the Wild Growth turn and just go for Innervate. But this from Tom is just ramping into a Mount Cellar off the top, hopefully, for him.
Well, his hand already tells a story of what his game plan is. It is, at the moment, it would seem, Ysera Ironbark on what would be turn 6, I suppose, after he's gained all the mana crystals. It's a very, very early turn to play a 9-drop, but when you're staring down all of this from the other side, it does not seem even close to fast enough.
Yeah, imagine hitting Ysera, so I really do think this is just begging for a Mount Cellar. Anything else? Not gonna cut it.
Innovate, I suppose, on its own, the second Vate in his deck would be a huge deal.
Okay. But this
Not
turn...
saying it's winning the game.
Yeah. This turn is still awful.
Agreed.
It's the only play he had, though, was to get rid of the Satyr Overseer. Blitzchung's expression. Yeah. We've seen Tom throw his arms back up behind his head in a much different fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I think Blitzchung in his head there was just saying, I cannot believe he didn't have Overflow. Because when you see your opponent go Vate Wild Growth, I think already Blitzchung had in his mind, right, you're getting to 4 early. What do you want to do on 4? Overgrowth. That gets you to 7 early. What do you want to do on 7 with no cards in hand? Overflow. It just made sense. But it just wasn't there! Oh!
Steam rolled, just as like Tyler steamrolled Blitzchung. Blitzchung is paying it forward, and against a former world champion, no less. Blitzchung has an amazing score to end Division B with over at the top. And Tom, not a big deal though, he's still guaranteed straight to playoffs, but well played to Blitzchung.
Absolutely, man. You gotta love blitzchung. Just that very wry smile at the end, like, well, what do you want from me? He won that game, not really through any good play of his own. I mean, it was, as I've said, in these Demon Hunter matchups against Druid, where you're just kind of playing out your stuff on curve, it was as close to a perfect game as you're going to get, where there were relatively few decisions overall. But he did what he had to do and ends up at 6-1, an incredibly impressive score.
Wow, blitzchung has just been on a roll. But that is to say, it's not a huge deal whether you finish first in Division B or fourth, because the four of them will still have to play in a play-in bracket, which is going to happen off-stream, first versus fourth and second versus third, to determine who finally gets those last 2 slots to head into playoffs alongside the top 6 of Division A.
That is correct. And who ends up in the third or fourth slot, I believe, actually taking a look at it, is already decided, because Shaxi is the only player left to play, as that is our final game of Shaxi versus Samuel Sao coming up next. And given that he has already beaten tom60229, even if he loses just in the one-way head-to-head, Shaxi will finish fourth, and Shaxi will finish third, and Tom will finish fourth. So I think we are looking at blitzchung versus Tom will be a rematch for the qualification to playoffs bracket.
Very interesting. It also means that we have 12 players out of 16 already locked up in their final standings. It's just the bottom half of Division B that has some potential to switch around now, and it's all dependent on this next match. If Samuel Sao can get the win and stay alive in Grandmasters, or if Shaxi will end his run right here.
That's right. It is just straight up a battle for Samuel Sao to try and stay alive. If he wins, he's safe and Dawn is relegated. If he loses, he is out and Dawn is safe. I can't even imagine how Dawn, or Samuel Sao for that matter, must be feeling right now, waiting for their match to start. But we're going to torture them a little bit longer by going to a break here before their game can start. So make sure you are absolutely ready. You don't want to miss even a single second of this final match for the round robin here in Asia Pacific. We'll be back in just under 10 minutes with the last